The fast ones there.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to a Ulurp meeting. We have here with us Jacqueline Welsh.
Is that a committee member?
Yes, committee members.
Are you calling committee members now?
Evelyn Williams.
Could you start again? Evelyn Williams, go ahead.
Raise your hand when your name is called.
Jackie Welch? Okay, thank you, Laura.
Laura Imperial. Jamal Pollard.
Who?
Jamal Pollard.
That's not a member.
That's not a member.
That's not what was given to us.
That's not a member. That's not a member.
Demetrius Lawrence.
But he's not a member. No.
Fred Batiste.
Present.
Thank you, Fred.
Jay
He's a committee member. Let him call the committee, please.
Warren Burke. Ed Fanning.
Here.
Simone Bennett.
You didn't call my name. President Jason.
I'm a committee member, not a board member.
Jay,
I'm sorry.
S-O-R-I-D.
So you who?
Jay Sorry.
And what was the next person? I'm sorry.
got it. Thank you for your time.
Warren Burke.
Warren Burke.
Ed Fanning.
Ed Fanning. Who's Ed Fanning?
That's this guy who's sitting in the back.
And Simone Bennett.
And Simone who?
Bennett.
I would like to make an objection to Ed Fanning being on this committee because according to the FOIA request,
Okay,
She's
we
not
will
finished
have,
speaking.
no, when we would get to that portion, we deal with it.
I'm sorry.
I'm continuing speaking, you don't interrupt me at this point.
If you are speaking illegally, you cannot call a person's name as part of the committee that's not a part of the committee. He's from the borough president's office. Ed Fanning.
As is,
I am not from the borough
as
president.
is tonight,
Where are you from?
there
I'm
is
a member
no quorum.
of the committee who is not a member of the board. All right? I'm a resident of the community. If you're
Ed
And who placed you on the board? Who placed you on this committee?
Goldstein and Sotero.
They don't have.
As it is tonight, we do not have a quorum,
So that means you cannot commence with this meeting.
so,
Alicia, please, let him speak.
so item number 1, we table it until later, if we got a quorum, if not, we move on
What is item
to
number 1?
item number 2.
What is item number 1? You don't have the agenda.
Where you never gave us an agenda?
Right here.
Where's the agenda?
What you did have
What's item number 1?
The agendas are on the table.
On the website.
Everyone, the agenda's on the table that weren't passed out.
According to parliamentary procedure, if you do not have a quorum, this meeting cannot commence, cannot begin. Not only can you not take a vote, excuse me, not only can you not take a vote, you cannot advance because you don't have a quorum until parliamentary.
Ms. Boyd, could you stop interrupting and have a seat?
Yo, I'm not interrupting. You're doing
Ms. Boyd, could you stop interrupting? Boyd, could you stop interrupting and have a seat?
breaking the law.
Ms. Boyd, could you stop interrupting?
Have a discussion.
Okay, item number 2 on the agenda. Item number 2 on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, can we have a discussion? We cannot go on to the meeting without a quorum. That's
All right, listen, if I can everyone's attention for one moment. As Cb9 parliamentarian, I'm just going to make a point. Specifically, what the committee cannot do is take a vote. You cannot take an action.
Correct.
As a community meeting, we can have the discussion. The only thing that cannot happen until a quorum is achieved is an actual vote.
Okay.
So we are proper in terms of having a discussion. Chair's already said we're going to move on to item number 2, have that discussion, and then we continue with the agenda from there.
Can we be included, can the public be included in
In that discussion?
It's a discussion.
Thank you. Thank
Let me not usurp the chair, but I'm understanding.
Item number 2. Right. Preliminary discussion regarding the mayor's affordable housing zone text amendment. Anyone have any comments on it?
On number 2, can I get the mic?
Did you guys have a presentation or anything?
Yes, we do have a presentation that's sitting in front of you. We presented it to the community. Would you like to?
I know, but were you gonna do it like a screen or something up on a screen?
We have it, yeah, we're a poor company, we're a poor community.
Yeah,
We don't have screens.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. But you have copies, thank you. I submitted copies. Everybody has a copy, so you can search. Would you like to give me the mic so we can have this discussion?
Is Mr. Angadi, are you gonna present as well?
Professor Angad. Professor Angad. Okay. Thank you.
Wait.
You know, it's like pulling teeth.
Demonize Alicia, no talking.
Right? No, I can't. My freedom of speech is curtailed in this community. Oh, now we have to wait.
Why are you waiting?
No discussion.
What are you waiting for? Why are you waiting?
Because Pearl is going to direct him what to do.
Well, they're already.
And they already have it, let them do it.
Give them the
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out. I'm so glad that you're coming out. One of the... Okay.
She has
Chairman, would you please direct your board members to be quiet while the public is speaking? Thank you very much. What you have in front of you is a document that MTOP has created. And this document pertains to a text amendment that is being proposed to the community. One of our issues that we've always had with this whole issue of rezoning is the fact that city planning comes into communities, especially communities of color, and promises them affordable housing, promises and says in return, you gotta build high. You gotta build high, you have to build high, you have to build high. However, what we have seen in community after community after community is they get those heights, but we never get affordable. If anything, they go into affordable communities, flip them, make them unaffordable, and then we get pushed out. Now, we've seen this downtown Brooklyn, we've seen this in East New York, we've seen this in the Bronx, right? We've seen it in Harlem, and now they're doing it to us, okay? Now, Williamsburg, we've seen it all over, right? So now we got a text, now we got another proposal sitting on the floor that they want to pass without community input to again upzone our community, asking for affordable housing. The text amendment actually is another example of the theory of city planning, or the philosophy of city planning. Because what happened is, all throughout these communities over the last 10 years, majority of the white middle class communities were downzoned. And when I mean downzoned, I mean they were protected about their heights. They were not allowed to build very tall buildings. They had text height restrictions. And then in communities of color, they upzone. They allowed them to build 10 stories, 15 stories, 20 stories. Well, Williamsburg, you know, you saw Williamsburg, downtown Brooklyn. What is different now is that there's now a new text amendment that's going to go into those previously protected communities, the white middle class communities, and upzone those communities after they have been promised
Alicia,
to keep it down.
Can you go?
we have 15.
Yes, I'm gonna go down. I'm setting the stage. I'm setting the stage. I'm setting because we're told one thing and then city planning comes and tells us another thing, and then some community board members don't know anything, and a lot of us don't know anything either. So what we've done is we've asked Professor Tamangati, who is a professor at Hunter College. He's the head of the urban planning department, and he trains city planners to come and speak to us, not only about the text amendment, but also to talk to you about this whole concept of planning and developing. And so I would like to introduce you to Professor Tamangati. You're not going to let me speak? No. Why not? Why would I have to bring the mic to you? I thought we'd have a discussion.
You recognize.
Following the rules.
Continuing education course.
And hopefully we'll be able to ask some questions.
Okay. All right. Let me just say, I am a professor of urban affairs and planning at Hunter College. I've been a professor for about 20. Okay, sure. For about 20 years. Before that, I was a senior planner with the city planning department in New York City. I'm a native of Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn. I live now on the other side of the park. And I do think I have more than knowledge. I have a great deal of experience. And I can just, in a very brief time, share two things that I know about the current city planning department's proposals. First of all, this contextual zoning change looks to me like it was prepared by a group of developers who wanted to eke out more space in contextual zones. Now, what are contextual zones? I remember back 20 years ago when the city planning department introduced contextual zones, they were reacting to homeowner neighborhoods who did not like the existing zoning because it was encouraging developers to move in, buy up houses, demolish them, and erect towers. And it was ruining neighborhoods. So contextual zoning was, exactly as Alicia said, to protect those neighborhoods. Preservationists like contextual zoning. It was a good thing. Now, what has happened in the last 5 to 10 years is that those neighborhoods have changed. And they have become increasingly communities of color. And they've also been in the path of new large-scale speculative development. So big development money, and this is something else that's changed, something that's new, is money is coming from all over the world. It's not just Manhattan, but it's all over the world because real estate in Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, Staten Island is now extremely valuable. So the people living in those neighborhoods, the money is looking to extract every square inch, every square foot of building that they can. So if you wanted to mess with the contextual zoning, I think the reasonable thing to do would be to see how you can tighten it up and protect it. But what are they doing? I'll just give you a couple of examples because I don't have time to go through all of the changes they're proposing. But one of them is to reduce the amount of square footage that seniors in senior housing. Now, excuse me, what is the logic of that? to put seniors in the smallest possible livable units. So, and then the other one is to allow buildings to go higher, not because they want the additional height by itself, but by going higher, they get more square feet. And every square foot is worth dollars. But what are our communities worth? If you're talking about protecting the community, let's start with that, not how to squeeze out more square footage. Now, the other thing I just wanted to say, I'm very familiar with the process that city planning has followed in the last 10 and 15 years. And it has gone in only one direction. When you ask for a zoning study, you've turned the engine on, and you can't turn it off, because city planning department has one optic, and they have one agenda: upzone on wide avenues and protect the side streets where big development dollars are not interested. So it doesn't matter what you say during the zoning study, in community meetings, and they will talk you to death. They'll have as many meetings as you want, and you'll be listened to. But it doesn't matter, because the script has already been written. It's upzoning on wide avenues, wherever they can get the maximum amount of square feet, and protecting the side streets where they know they're going to face hell and brimfire if they try to rezone those areas, because homeowners will fight them. So through the period of the zoning study, and then it goes into the Uniform Land Use Review procedure. I've testified at the last 2 Charter Commission hearings and have said time and time again, the land use review procedure process is broken. And one of the reasons it's broken is community boards don't have a voice. You can have 100 meetings, and city planning comes in and gives you a zoning proposal. You can vote against it, and it doesn't matter. Because as long as the City Planning Commission approves it, as long as your city council person, even if your city council person doesn't approve it, the city council can vote for it, and the mayor appoints the majority of members on the City Planning Commission. So it's a mayoral-dominated process, and community boards don't have the power that they need. I have worked with many community boards over the years. We've done community plans, and I've worked on more than half of the community plans that have been taken to the City Planning Commission to be approved. They've been approved, and the next day they throw them out because the community boards don't have a voice. And a lot of good people on community boards put a lot of time and energy into it. So my advice as you go into this process is to beware of what you ask for. Because, and unless you have your own plan and you decide to fight for it and organize around it, you're passive players in this process.
She had a question.
Yes, my question is, under the current circumstances, there's some antiquated zoning now, which leaves an opportunity for developers to still build high for the same things that we're all saying that we don't want.
We can't hear you.
Sorry. The same things that we're all saying we don't want, which is super high buildings and non-contextual. Their current zoning allows for that. How do we manage around the fact that we're still vulnerable to some of the things that you're talking about, regardless of whether we ask for this study or not?
Well, that's a good question. My first caution is, who tells you that the existing zoning allows for it? Okay, because if it allows for it and it hasn't been snapped up by speculators and developers, then maybe it's not a problem. Maybe you're being told that it's a problem.
6.6 is not a problem.
Huh?
6.65
That's an exception.
Well, I don't know. And the other thing is, if you know that that's a problem, if you're convinced of it, and you want to rezone a particular block or a street, you can ask for that rezoning. And you say, that's it. You don't have to study the whole neighborhood. You can just do a piecemeal rezoning, and actually, it'll cost the city planning department much less. It'll cost the city much less. It'll take much less time. It doesn't have to be such a huge operation. You don't have to do the whole, because you know, if city planning were really doing a comprehensive study of the neighborhood, what they're talking about, but what they never do, we're going to look at schools, we're going to look at healthcare facilities, we're looking at all of the services, the infrastructure. They don't look at those things because other agencies are responsible for those things. I know from years working in the city planning department, we could ask the health department to come, and they might come for a meeting, but we have no control.
Winston agreed, he admitted it. At his,
Yeah.
He said,
So you can talk about health facilities all you want. See, the zoning doesn't change anything.
he said they don't plan for it.
Yeah, they don't plan for it. What we need in communities is real planning that starts with what the needs are, and then you figure out how zoning fits in with it. But zoning by itself doesn't really bring the change that you want.
I go first. Sorry, I got the mic. Hi, Laura Imperiali. Thank you for coming and talking about this tonight. I think it's a really important issue for our community. And not really understanding the implications, and I know the mayor hasn't rolled it out yet to our community. So I'm just wondering, well, a couple things I'd like to say. One is, I think the system, the Ulurp system, is designed so we really don't, as a community board, have power. We're only advisory, same with the borough president. So all we can say is vote up or down, say, yeah, we like this or we don't. But we really, it's your elected officials that have the juice at City Hall on the Ulurp. So it's whether they want something to happen or not, we can only give them our opinion, but we're only advisory on all items. So just that being said, so the mayor's affordable and quality housing text amendment, how would that, my biggest concern is not about this letter requesting a study from city planning. I think, whether the letter goes forward or not, it doesn't matter, because what the mayor's plan is seems to be going to override everything anyway. So I just want to know what your thoughts are on that.
Community boards don't have the power, but they do have the ability to say no. And you have the ability to say, no, we don't want to study. Or yes, this is what we want rezoned, and you can forget about the rest. Unfortunately, the way the city has used community boards is to give people the impression that they do have a say. And if you stop, it's time to stop that. It's time to stop playing games, and it's time to say, okay, what's the real deal? Okay, the real deal is you rezone this or you rezone that. The other real deal is if you want to upzone anything, what about public transportation? That's the other scam that's transit-oriented development. Every neighborhood that's been upscaled and upzoned for massive new development. You saw New York 1 this morning about subways being overcrowded, people falling off the platforms. So there's no planning. And the other scam that'll pull on you is say, oh, well, whenever we do a rezoning, we'll do an environmental impact analysis. And we're going to look at all those things, how it affects schools, how it affects roads, infrastructure. You know what they do? I've been a part of the legal challenge to many environmental impact statements. They hire a company, AKRF, they do all of the environmental impact analyses, they have a blueprint, and they fill in the blanks. And it's a 4,000 or 5,000 page document. So when the rezoning comes to you, do you guys really have the time to go through that 4,000 or 5,000 pages and figure out what it's saying? Nobody does. It's just a piece of paper that's filed, and an environmental impact analysis is only a disclosure document. It says this is going to be the potential negative environmental impact, and all they have to do is disclose it. They don't have to do anything about it. So
Tell me you're going to kick my Let me know.
I would, yes. How many times have judges ruled against environmental impact statements? Very rarely.
They don't want to read 5,000 pages either.
Very rarely. Yeah, the judges don't read either.
And they didn't do it for 626.
I have a question. Okay, so we have a situation here that we have 4 or 5 community groups that are requesting different zoning in their area, despite what it's being said, okay? So some of it is upzoning, some of it is downzoning, some of it is evening out the zoning, where in one block it could be a 3-story house, the next block could be a 2-story house, and of course that may not be a neighborhood either. Okay? So what you're saying is that what we as a community board should do is to say upzone, upzone, downzone, downzone, like picking from a menu?
No.
That's what I mean. I didn't do that. So my question is that isn't it logical and better to have a cohesive plan knowing, okay, what the input's going to be for the community? I mean, the people who want the upzone is going to stay. Whatever Alicia wants, and probably Laura, she's going to stay. So
It's not alone. The community does not want upzoning on Empire. Thank you. Thank you. That's it. We all community. We all kids. Yes, I'm trying to demonize all of us.
So your question is, okay, so if people have different ideas. No, this question is, if people have different ideas, then, but then the conclusion isn't turn it over to city planning to work out the differences. No, because they're not a neutral third party. They have their plan, and by the way, you all can agree on what you want. You can negotiate among yourself, up zone here, down zone there, and everything, and then you take it to city planning and say, sorry. They'll say sorry because we have our scheme and our principles, and they are transit-oriented development. That's what they call it. Zone on White Avenue.
No, we have there are 5 or 6 groups that don't, that have different ideas than this group. And I'm not saying better, but it's different. Okay, what's your recommendation?
Well, my recommendation to every community board is you got to work it out. You got to work it out yourselves and make your, well, that's how communities, that's how you build communities.
There's a process.
That's how you build strength in a community. You actually become stronger when you can resolve the conflicts internally. I don't know. It's not my community.
Start from scratch, stop producing stuff. Start from scratch and let's talk about it.
I'm part of the Concerned Citizens Group, and we are hiring a planner. There hasn't been money made available by the community board or by the politicians. Cb9 did get some money from politicians. Well, we are raising our own money, and I think the biggest fear factor in this neighborhood is that we're going to end up with another 626 Flatbush. And how did 626 Flatbush appear? They assembled lots. So what I was wondering is there a way of getting the politicians to introduce a bill so you cannot assemble lots to go high?
That would be a good bill, but
in theory, that may sound right, something makes sense, but the fact is we live in the United States of America. It's a free economy, and whoever wants to buy, the government cannot hinder somebody to buy property except if it affects eminent domain. That's a fact. There are court rulings, there are Supreme Court decisions. I've looked at this a lot, and it is a free society, and the Supreme Court has ruled, including where they seized livable property in New Haven. I mean, we know a little bit about what went on over there. So that just won't fly.
Well, then we should change the zoning around the park where the developers want to build small buildings.
Thank you. We should focus on that.
Well, I'd just like to comment on what Jake said. I mean, the other thing is, too, you have to look at it this way. The flip side of that is, what if someone wanted to build a community center and needed to assemble lots? So you can't discriminate against one buyer versus another.
One thing we all agree on is we don't want tall buildings.
I agree. I think we all agree with that.
So this study, by asking for affordable, we're asking for tall buildings.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to comment, the community board does not have funds for this. We've asked. You see how responsive our elected officials have been. I don't think very. So we're here floundering on our own, trying to do the best that we can, because we have no resources. If you want to hire a planner, that's fabulous. I love it. Go for it. I wish it happened years ago.
The New York City Charter was revised.
the New York City Charter was revised in 1989 and explicitly says that every community board should have a planner. The city planning department and the commission consciously made a decision that, well, they all have planners because we have borough offices. And that's baloney, as we all know. Under Giuliani, he actually told planners that they couldn't talk to community boards without permission from City Hall. Yeah.
Based on everything that you've said, what I'm gathering is that what we need to do is go after the mayor. And that's who we need to go after, because evidently if he has the last word, that's who we need to go after.
Well, I just want to say one thing about affordable housing, because that's the other piece of the mayor's strategy. It was Bloomberg's strategy, and it's de Blasio's strategy. The way to get high-density housing, high-rise housing, is to promise affordable housing. Now, the formula for affordability is based on a large metropolitan area, so that almost every neighborhood where this zoning is occurring, it's not affordable to the vast majority of the residents in the neighborhood. So it's not truly, but the other thing is, under existing zoning, it's voluntary. Even if it becomes obligatory, it will never be more than 20%. So you can have all the discussions you want. I've been with many communities who have asked for 50%. Lower East Side, which has one of the strongest community boards and has been fighting for years and years, wanted 50% affordable housing in new urban renewal development. They're winding up with 20%. Okay? So, because the numbers don't work for developers, they don't make a profit.
Professor Angotti, there's a philosophy that goes around in our community, and this is why there's really a division in our community. because there's certain places where, yes, you want protection. And then what city planning has said, okay, well, we're going to protect that area, but you have to unprotect this area. And of course, that happens to be our area that they want to unprotect. So, you know, the philosophy keeps being, if you want to protect this area, you have to throw this area underneath the bus and get this upzoned. So what they want to do on Empire is they want to put 25-story buildings so that we can save Flatbush and not get a 20-story building on Flatbush. So you want to put it on Empire instead. Now, if anybody knows about Empire, we got 3 blocks, both sides, round the corner. We're talking about some serious skyscrapers. Okay, so go and look at 626, because that's what they're planning for Empire. And so what we've been trying to demand is that just take Empire out of the study. Don't let city planning touch it. Because if city planning can't touch it, then they can't manipulate it. Then they can't change it, because that's our power. Our power is not to let them get their hands on it. Because once we allow Empire, according to those parameters that keep being given to us that we can't discuss, forced on us, once we give them Empire, and we give them our corridors, we give them Bedford, we give them Nostrand, we give them Rogers, they're going to take these places, they're going to build up, and then all of us are going to be pushed out. Okay? So what we tell you is don't include it. If you got parts of this community that you want to protect, then let's talk about protecting those communities. Let's talk about setting a plan, protecting those communities. But you're not going to protect those communities off of our backs. Not off of our homes. Okay? And is my philosophy right, Professor? Do they go into communities and do this negotiation with them? You know, you have to give up this in order to get that?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it negotiation. There's some of that. There's some of that. But then they will say, no, this is what we want. This is it. If you want to do a little bit of this or a little bit of that, okay, we'll throw that in. So, I mean, it's very clear what the strategy is. But just one last thing. I just would say, this discussion is going on in almost every community board in the city, which is a good thing, because in the Bloomberg administration, there were 140 rezoning proposals, and every single one of them passed because it was a huge public relations blitz. They went in with the affordable housing scam. Oh, they did the mixed-use scam in Williamsburg, saying, oh, we're going to take these industrial zones and we're going to allow a little bit of residential in it. And what turned out is all the industry's gone. Mixed-use zones. Oh, I know. I know, and a lot of good community people fought. There was the Williamsburg 197A plan, wanted mixed use, but city planning prevailed, and this was a strong community.
Most of, let's say, the rezoning, the one thing that's absent in this entire conversation are the landowners on Empire. We haven't heard one word.
Oh, they're here. Oh, they're here. They're being represented. Oh, they're being represented. Oh, they're being represented. Oh, yes, they are.
But if you own one of those lots, the point is, the city is going to talk to the people who hold possession of that land and see what they want. So that's not in your hands, and that's not in my hands.
Well, my guess is they've already talked to them. Because I worked at city planning. Developers would come knock on the door and they'd say, you know what, there's this, there are these auto shops over there. You know what, I'm thinking, what would you think about, you know, upzoning that area? And then somebody would say, well, you know, it's not a bad idea. Nobody likes auto shops, okay? And then guess what would happen? Even before they start talking about a rezoning, they've gone in and bought up the auto shop, they bought up the whole block, and they sit on it until the rezoning falls into place.
And that's what you see on Empire.
And by the way, that's how they make money, because they make more money by waiting for the rezoning, because the day after the new zoning goes into effect, the value of the land shoots up 10, 20, 30 times its original value.
I probably don't need the microphone, but I'll take it just in case. No, I want to take us back about 3 or 4 steps. As Dr. Agnati said, we have to work this out. Now, I think that the problem of the community is that we are under the impression, with some justification, that the community board has preconceived notions, for whatever reason, about how this should be resolved. And so therefore, we, as the community, which is a lot more of us than there are of you, have not been listened to. Of course, you have put it on Ms. Boyd all the time, but I can tell you that there are a lot of people who may not speak up, but still have the power of the vote and still have thoughts on their mind on what should be done. So you, as the community board, cannot come to the table with a preconceived notion of how it should be resolved. Because, as he said, there's a lot of community boards that are having similar discussions to the one that we are having. The problem that we have, in my opinion, which I'm allowed to have, is that we have a double problem, because we have a double broken system. The citywide system is broken, but then we as a community have one thought, and members of the community board have a different thought, when it's your job to represent what we have to say. I'm done.
So, Maxine Bond, based on what Dr. Angadi has told us, if we allow you to push this study down our throats, we will be dead in the water. We're through. Based on what the esteemed doctor said, based on his resume and his upfront experience in the trenches as well as in teaching, once the study goes in, we're dead. So the areas that are compromised, then we'll discuss those compromised areas. The areas that are already preserved and don't need to be upzoned, we will not include in the study. Doesn't sound difficult to me as a novice. Leave the places Empire Boulevard that is protected, and let's buy into Mayor de Blasio's promise to stop a tale of two cities. Let's preserve Prospect Lefferts Gardens and Crown Heights. It's already 2 days. And Washington Avenue. And if affordability is a lie, a myth, a misnomer. It is not true. It has never happened, and it never will happen. Based on the wonderful presentation that we had from Dr. Angadi.
I'd just like to point out, I would like to point out that my name is Janine Nichols. I'm the acting secretary of the Sullivan Ludlam Stoddard Neighborhood Association. And I'd like to point out how interesting, I'd just like everyone to note that the people, that it was MTOP and Alicia Boyd who brought Professor Angadi, a knowledgeable person, to speak to this committee. I have never had a sense that this committee did its homework for 5 minutes. It's all marching orders and disdain and contempt, okay? But it is MTOP and Alicia Boyd and Sullivan Ludlam Stoddard and concerned citizens. We are trying to bring people with experience and who know their history to bear on this matter. And he is telling us, and we have been trying to tell you, that we are chumps if we hand over this entire neighborhood. We will get an Empire Boulevard lined with luxury housing. That's what we're going to get. They've been warehousing for decades. They've delivered blight into this neighborhood while they waited. And if they find out that it's not going to happen, that it's commercial 6, then let them build commercial 6. Let them bring back the Empire roller rink. Let them bring back the bowling alley. Let them bring a movie theater. Let's have people come into the neighborhood during the day, spend their money in Crown Heights, and go home at night.
We still do not have a quorum, so at this point, I'd ask someone to move that the meeting be adjourned.
Wait, I have an objection. Point of order, I have an objection. I have an objection. I have a point of order. Point of order. Point of order. Objection. Point of order. There's an objection. There's an objection. Point of order. I would like to have a point of order. Can I please? Yes, I would like to say, I don't need to be recognized by the chair with a point of order.
No.
Jay, you're my
Okay. Okay. Now, meeting is adjourned.